All right. So, David, everybody's on quarantine. They just locked down Nashville.
They did.
I had a very lighthouse moment earlier where I was
Hmm.
like, how long have I been on quarantine? 2 days, 2 hours, a year, my entire life. It had been 15 minutes, so I'm doing great. I'm handling very, very well all the stress and coping very well with this quarantine.
Well,
Um,
I think as long as you haven't like gotten just shit face obliterated drunk and like beat the ever living piss and life out of a seagull, then I think you're doing a little bit better than some.
Quite true, but that may just be because seagulls are not native to the Nashville, Tennessee area.
Sure, but you can still do the whole getting drunk part, and as far as I know, you haven't done that yet,
It's true.
and I tip my cap off to you,
No
sir.
plans either. So, um, I'm counting it as a victory. I'm counting it as a
Yes,
victory.
yeah.
Somebody at work asked me how it was going, and I said, "Have you ever seen the movie The Shining?" And they didn't get
Yeah,
it.
like
They
like
didn't get it.
that fucking meme where, they're in the car driving up the hill, or the mountain, and it's like, what's it gonna hurt, a couple weeks or a month in isolation?
Yeah. I've always wanted to recut The Shining as like a zany comedy. I feel like it's there. It's we
Oh,
can.
have you seen, like, that YouTube video exists, like,
Damn it!
it's just called Shining, and, like, they recut it to make it look like a family film.
See,
It's
see,
so
the
fucking
golden
funny.
idea.
Yeah, you have to go watch it after what we're done recording.
I will
I'll
do that. Anyway, back to the task at hand. So,
Right,
David and I spoke earlier about our various mind losingness because of the quarantine and whatnot. And we decided, hey, let's do an episode talking about what we're doing to try and stay sane. It's working
right.
wonderfully, can't you tell?
Yes, it's shining through all
Eh?
all orifices and
Eh?
speakers.
That's a
Ah,
that's two puns in one.
yes.
So yeah, hit the music, David. Let's get this shit show on the road.
All right. Boop.
Anyway, so since we did such a great job introing the episode and totally talked about what it was going to be about, what have you been doing as your survivor's guide to social distancing, David?
Well, Theodore, I'm so glad you asked. I have been catching up on my reading. I have been reading. Let's see. I got through Batman Year One,
Mm,
as per your suggestion.
it's a good
Of
one.
course, yeah, we talked about that during our Batman episode that we did last week, and I was very enthused that the comic book store had it in stock. So I went ahead and grabbed it. I took that as a sign that it must be. So picked it up, read it in a couple days, and it's pretty great. I think you during the episode you mentioned something about how Year One is kind of like uh, it's definitely a Batman comic book, but it's more told through the eyes of Jim Gordon.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's definitely correct. And while I haven't read a lot of Batman, this was definitely a cool book to read. That is, which was from his perspective, and of course, it still had Batman in it, but it was just neat to see it like told through the eyes of Jim Gordon, especially when he's like brand new to Gotham, and of course, he's like the good cop who has the good moral compass, and he's quickly realizing that all these fucking douchebags, which I believe is the correct psychological clinical
yes, that
term
is the
for all
technical
these
term.
crime families, they they're all tied in with the police, and they all have deals cut and all that, and he's like, something doesn't smell right,
Yeah,
and then yeah, shit starts to go sideways. But yeah, I like I said, I finished it in a couple days, and it was I loved it. I'm definitely, it makes me want to go read more Frank Miller in particular. Like
yeah. Prepare to be let down. No, I
uh
mean that's like half of a joke. Frank Miller is like the stuff that he's remembered for is really good, and then there's all the rest of it that nobody talks about.
sure. I mean, like Sin City. That's kind of like classic Frank Miller,
For
right?
sure. I mean, there's the stuff like Sin City, in my opinion, is his best work.
Okay.
As if I'm some sort of leading voice on it. I think a lot of people probably share that opinion.
Sure. Yeah. That's definitely going to be my next Frank Miller book that I dive into, just because it's like you said, and like I've kind of alluded to. It seems like that's some of his classic work, and plus, I'm just an overall fan of the movie, and I've heard you and I talked about this previously, like just me skimming through Sin City the book and then comparing it to the movie. It seemed like a super accurate like adaptation, and I was like, it makes me want to go back and read the graphic novels now.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, the director Robert Rodriguez actually used the books as like storyboards.
Yeah, yeah,
So
that totally makes sense with just the way the movies were shot and
yeah,
edited.
it's been several years, but I remember that movie came out in like 2005, I think. So
Oh yeah.
at that time, a lot of people were sort of doing breakdowns. This is like pre YouTube, pre.
Hmm.
Oh my
Oh
god, I'm
yeah.
old. But anyway, they were doing kind of like blog breakdowns of literal like panels from the book compared to their live action scene, and they were in some cases, particularly some of the shots that didn't have human actors in them. You were like,
Right,
holy shit.
like shot for shot
Yeah, like
almost.
I don't. It was difficult to tell like which was which in
Oh
some of
yeah.
them.
Yeah, it's
Um,
great.
yeah, I love Sin City. It's still one of the best two or three comic book movies in my opinion.
Yeah.
I even like the sequel.
Yeah,
I'm
I
the only one that did, but I damn sure do.
no. Now there's two people that like the sequel because I enjoyed it too. I definitely didn't enjoy it as much as the original,
No,
but
it's definitely not
uh
as good, but there are several of us that enjoy it apparently. So
all right, well, if you're listening to this episode and you also enjoyed the sequel that came about like 10 or 15 years later after the first one came out, then hit us up and let's have a conversation about it.
yes,
Even
and
if you
then we
didn't
can
like
talk
it.
about how we're trendsetters and we can ride that wave of mediocrity and popularity for bringing that back.
Right. But yeah, comic books, and I kind of got back into a little bit of video gaming. I picked up the DLC for Horizon Zero Dawn on PS4,
Mm.
so I kind of been playing through that. So it's kind of been cool and nice to get back into video gaming for a little bit, using this opportunity to do that. So, but anyways, what about you?
Yeah, so I've been reading some. I've been reading boring adult books, I guess.
Oh, okay.
A lot of history stuff, but in terms of things more relevant, I guess, to the podcast and people who would listen to it, something tells me that that's not it. But
I want to know about the history books that you're reading.
well, I will tell you briefly. I read.
Is it the history of the ladder?
How
The
did you know?
history of the the history of the ceiling fan.
Yes. No, I read, or I haven't finished it, but I'm reading The March of Folly from Barbara W. I think it's pronounced Tuchman, Walkman. Not really sure how you say her last name. But
Okay.
she was a fantastic author of history and nonfiction. She won the Pulitzer Prize. I can't remember for
Okay.
what, but she was fantastic, very intelligent, very great writer. So I've been reading through that.
Right on.
Um, I based on our Star Trek episode, I was like, I'm going to rewatch The Next Generation, and I have remembered very vividly that me as a child was a fucking moron because man, that show is. Whew.
It seems like it falls in line with a lot of the stuff that we talk about, where the good stuff or the good parts are really good and the bad parts are not so great.
Yeah.
Right.
When we had Mac and Tiffany on a few episodes ago about that,
Hmm.
I think Mac had the comment about The Next Generation. It's like everybody remembers all the iconic episodes, but you can't really you can't pick three random episodes and have them all be good at any point in the show or something to that
Right.
effect. Like you can't string together three good episodes in a row, and he's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
still,
remember. Yeah, I remember that comment, and it's something kind of adjacent where he was like, "Yeah, you can't watch like three in a row or something like that are good."
yeah, he's right. That said, I still love it. Picard's still the best
Yeah. Oh
captain,
yeah.
and
It's
it's still my favorite series despite its warts. I've been doing that. I'm about a season and a half in, kind of taking it easy. I'm not really a binge watch kind of person, so I don't really
Sure.
do more than two episodes at a time. And even if I do two at a time, I feel kind of guilty. Like that's time I could have spent doing anything else.
Right. And it's
Um,
hard to do with Star Trek just because they're so long.
yeah. I mean they're 45 minutes, so two of them together is that's basically
Yeah.
like a feature film.
Right. Yeah.
Which I'm more of a movie guy, so it's like that's a movie you could have watched. Like,
Right. Yeah.
I've been doing that. I picked up the Resident Evil 2 remake.
Oh, okay. I meant Lindsay and I were actually looking for that at a Target the other day, and we couldn't find it.
Yeah, I got
So
it. I got a digital copy. It was on sale. It might still be on sale, actually. I'm not sure. But I
oh
got
yeah.
like the collector's edition or whatever they're calling it. It's the collector's edition. It's got all the DLC for it.
Okay.
It was like 15 or $20. So I was
Oh,
like, okay,
nice.
I can't really pass that up.
Yeah. Have you gotten a chance to get into it yet?
Yeah, as far as game time, like on the save file, I'm probably like 2 hours in.
Okay.
But I'm probably really more like 10 hours in because I've restarted like four times because I kept getting like the shit kicked out of me on because like I remember playing the old Resident Evil games and I was good at them.
Right.
I got good at them
Right.
and I put this one in and I was like, um yeah, it's basically like I'm 40 minutes into the game. I have two bullets, no health. Um and like there's a pack of wild dogs after me and I was just like this is not conducive to this is not a tenable situation basically. Like,
Right.
um I played a little bit Friday night, and I got to a part where it's like you use one of the like I think it's the spade key, um to open up one of the locked doors, and
Sure.
I go through into the library and then I immediately get attacked by a zombie and I was like fuck this game, fuck this fucking game. Just turned it off and I was like, all right, this is much
That's
easier. And
awesome.
I was like 15. Um, it's really good though. It's really, really well done.
No,
And I like it a lot, but I
yeah, I've
also
heard
hate it a lot. It's complicated. I have a lot of complicated feelings.
yeah, I've heard pretty much for the most part nothing but good things about it, and just in terms of it being a remake of the original. Like a few people have said that they took like the really good parts and pieces that made the original so good and kind of implemented it and then tweaked the storyline a little bit to be just different enough
Yeah.
to kind of not be just a straight up 100% rehash of the original.
It's sort of like a reimagining, I guess.
Right.
To me, the way I'm looking at it is this is probably what the creators had in mind when they did the game originally in what 1996 or
Hmm.
1997, but the technology wasn't there yet. So
Right.
it's probably more true to their vision or truer to their vision, I would guess. But
Sure.
it's I like it a lot. They've got Resident Evil 3 coming out, the Nemesis remake coming out here pretty soon.
Hmm.
And I will also buy that and yell and cry probably about Nemesis. But other than that, I've just been trying to catch up on movies. Going back, I rewatched Event Horizon the other night, which does not hold up as well as I remember it holding up the last time I watched it about 5 years ago.
No,
In
I
fact, it's actively bad.
I
I still kind of like. I actually watched that with my girlfriend. I don't know how I
okay.
convinced her to watch that, but
Well,
she was game for it and she watched it, and then immediately afterwards she looked at me and was just like, okay.
what the fuck, man? Why are you doing this to me?
Yeah, so um I'm gonna have to watch so many Disney movies to make up for that, but well, it was almost worth it.
Well, I mean, there's worse things to watch?
That's true.
Question mark.
Although, well,
I mean, debatably so, but whatever.
yeah. And then one last thing that I've kind of with movies, I have not had a chance to watch it yet, but I saw that Color Out of Space was finally available in digital.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna,
The Nicolas Cage movie.
yeah, it's the Nicolas Cage starring. It's Richard Stanley. It's of course, based on the H.P. Lovecraft short story.
Sure.
Uh, I don't really like. I'll read reviews, but I don't really. I don't let those. sort of cloud my judgment. Like if it's a movie I want to
Sure.
see, I'm going to watch it regardless. But
Right. Dictate whether you're gonna go see it or not.
yeah, exactly. But some of the things I've read about it are that it does a really good job of trying to conjure that Lovecraftian sort of horror, but it
Sure.
makes some changes that like make sense.
Yeah.
Which, you know, that story is probably 100 years old or close to it, so I would expect them to be some,
Sure.
you know,
Yeah.
some needed updating in
Yeah.
some parts. But I'm gonna watch that, and I'm gonna probably like mm, weep. I'm gonna weep with joy. But yeah,
Sure.
I'm very excited.
Is H.P. Lovecraft one of your favorite authors, or a beloved author of
He
any
exists in
capacity?
this like weird space for me where like I love his stories, but he was such a dog shit writer. Like that dude was so fucking. He was one of those guys where if I could have had the chance to meet him, I would have been like, "Have you ever heard another person talk? Like ever? Have you ever heard another human being speak?" Because it
Sh-
seems like he hadn't.
right.
Um, Great mind as far as like horror and you know science fiction and sci-fi horror goes, but just a
Yeah.
terrible author.
Sh-
If you've ever
Well,
read any of his stuff, you know exactly what I mean. I'm serious. Like it's a well-known thing where people are like, I really like Lovecraft despite his many flaws.
that's
Um,
a funny thing that I've mainly come across this in like movies and books, but people willing to forgive like a significant amount of flaws, or like one or two major flaws of a writer or director or an actor, especially when it comes to authors of fiction works, where they're just they like Stephen King, for instance. Like, I mean, there was a running joke in It Chapter Two where James McAvoy's character couldn't finish a book properly. Like he wrote shitty endings. That's what he was notorious for, and it was an obvious jab at Stephen King, and like he was even in on the joke when he had a cameo in the movie. So it's just funny to me how like people will like have that level of forgiveness to because they're willing to acknowledge the fact that like the other half, the good half, is good enough to make up for it.
yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely fair. There are a lot of things that I have a hard time overlooking
Hmm.
and forgiving, and then you know that's true of a lot of people. I'm sure they have a harder time. Some people have a harder time dealing with or forgiving what they perceive as flaws. You know, uh, I did see a great tweet about Stephen King though that it was like Stephen King will give you a great work like The Shining, but he'll also have a short story that's like, what if your toaster fell on you on purpose? Or I'm paraphrasing. That might not have been exactly it, but that's so true. I mean, like you can name off the classic like King works like The Shining and The Stand and
Hmm.
Carrie and you know Salem's Lot, you know, and then
Right.
there's also like Overdrive or you know like
Yeah.
where the I think that's the movie, but there's which is it's like a guilty pleasure movie, but there's like the short story where it's like oh the guy works overnight at the warehouse with rats, spooky, you know, like,
Yeah. I just recently went back and watched that Family Guy episode, The Three Kings. Have you ever seen that one?
I'm not sure that I have no.
It's where they like do a really quick version. It's I mean they're of course, since it's only a 22-minute episode, they do like I don't know, like 7 or 8 minutes for three Stephen King books into movie uh remakes in Family Guy fashion, and they do Stand by Me,
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I have seen this one.
God, what was the second one? Oh, Misery, and then
Stand by Me, Misery, and Shawshank, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. And I was fucking cracking up at their own little Stephen King cameo where Brian is, what James Caan's character, and he's driving, and he like, can't see where he's going. All of a sudden, like he hits someone, and it turns out to be Stephen King, and he does like a flip in the air, and he like
yeah,
writes an entire book while he's flipping in the air. Like he lands on his feet, and he's like done.
yeah. King he's no. I think that's a really good example where the good stuff he's done is really, really good, and the bad stuff you're like, you know what, buddy, they're not all going to be gold, you know.
Yeah,
And I think it's especially true for somebody like him because his career has been so long at this point. You know, Carrie came
right.
out in the
Yeah.
'70s.
Oh yeah.
Um,
He's been
so
writing for
he's been
such
an
a long
active
time.
author for so long. Plus, just like the breadth and depth of his work is like
Oh yeah.
staggering. If you really think about how many books and how many short stories he's actually written and published, and it's just like it's kind of
Right.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is pretty nuts. But it's also like from a. I would never really call myself like a writer or creative writer just because I don't do it enough to be able to call myself even really a hobbyist. But I do enjoy reading his like little snippets after his like especially his short stories books where he talks about like inspiration for each story,
Right.
like the Full Dark No Stars book. We might have talked about this on the podcast before, just maybe in regular conversation, but he talked about his inspiration, like how he got the idea for all the different short stories, and it's just really cool to peer into like his mind in particular for like how he's able to take something for the most part pretty ordinary or innocuous and like make it really fucked up. Be like, what if
Yeah.
this happened? Kind of like what you were saying. Like, what
What
if
if your
the
toaster
toaster
fell
was
on
a
you
what
on
if the
purpose?
toaster was a killer toaster and it had a
Yeah.
knife? Um,
Yeah. I like King. It's been a while since I've read excuse me, read a lot of his stuff, but there was a point in my life when I was 11 or 12 up through when I was probably 20 or 21, 22, that I read anything King I could get my hands on.
mhm.
And yeah, the good stuff is awesome and the bad stuff is cringe inducing. So, I
Yeah,
mean, but they can't all be great.
sure. Um, well, what else? Anything else going on? Just for the most part, trying to stay sane through this really fucking weird
Yeah, it's
period
strange,
of human
strange
history.
times, man.
I know.
I'm pretty fortunate in that I can work from home, so
Yeah,
it
me
hasn't hit
too.
me, as hard as it's hit some other people I know.
Hmm.
Or you hear the stories about especially people in the service industry and the restaurant industry, just like they can't
Right.
work. So,
Right. Yeah.
I consider myself really fortunate in that way. So I definitely encourage all of our listeners, if you have the means, to donate your time or donate money if you're able to, or donate your time. I know I saw some groups out there that were taking volunteers to like do grocery shopping for the elderly or for the
Hmm.
infirm.
Right.
So I definitely encourage that. I went to the store earlier today, and Jesus God, it was like Mad Max level shit.
Oh
Basically,
yeah.
it was kind
I
of nuts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the shit particularly hit the fan. Like yesterday and today with like the Metro announcement for like stay the fuck home or
Yeah,
else.
yeah, it's strange times, man. And in terms of like Nashville is not even really one of the worst cities, not even
Right.
close. Like New York, LA, San Francisco, Seattle are all number one, they have more cases, and number two, they have much stricter
Oh yeah.
stay at home guidelines than we do. So um it's wild. Everybody stay safe out there.
Yeah. I
Wash
mean,
your
there's
fucking hands.
right. Yeah. I mean, there's really nothing that we can say right now that hasn't already been said, other than that what definitely bears repeating, which is please like don't share anything on social media that you haven't like either looked into or isn't straight from the CDC website. So,
Yeah, man, that's something that kills me is like I enjoy conspiracy theories as much as the next guy.
but this isn't
Um
the time for that shit.
but this is not the time for it. Like it's fun to talk about aliens. It's not fun to talk about the government trying to take over the economy by murdering millions of people.
Yeah.
If they're going to do that, it would not be this subtle.
Yeah, no. I mean, this is like a fucking worldwide thing
Yeah.
that's affecting like pretty much everyone.
Yeah, so I mean, I think you raise a good point. Like, be aware of what you're reading and posting and listening to in terms of knowledge about this, and like make sure it's from a reputable source.
Yeah.
There's a lot of misinformation, and there's also a lot of disinformation. So people that are posting things that are maybe true but not quite 100%, And then there are people that are like actively trying to mislead you. So,
Right.
just be aware of that. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Wipe your ass. Call your mother and your father and tell them you like them, even if that's a lie.
Yeah. Well, I think after this, we got some interview, I guess, like guest appearances. I don't know, basically the same shit that we do when we have guests on. But it's I think it's just going to be me instead of me and Ted, and they're just going to be like little short, shallow
Basically,
dives.
recommendations of like how to stay sane, kind of what they're doing, and a few other things, right?
Right. Yeah, we're just it's I think we're calling it, Survivor's Guide to Social Distancing, and, uh how
You'd
to
think we'd all be used to this.
right, yeah,
We're all fucking
it's
geeks.
right, like it's what we've been training for our entire life.
Right.
But yeah, we're gonna have a few people on. I think maybe around three to five or so guests on, and they're just gonna be quick little like 5 to 10 minute segments each, and they're just gonna update us on kind of what they've been doing, and just very similar to what Ted and I have been talking about this short little segment. So yeah, so definitely stick around for all the preceding conversations with these old guests and um, friends that have been on the podcast before or involved with the podcast in some form or fashion. I think it's going to be um, fun to kind of talk to them and see what they're doing to bide their time in this weird time. So
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, you know, I guess this isn't really an appropriate time to like outro the podcast because it's not an outro. It's not the end.
We're not gonna do the thing.
What thing?
The the cheesecake. I don't know anymore, man.
Are we gonna do the cheesecake?
Say the words.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We'll go ahead and say, be kind, stay geeky, eat lots of cheesecake. All right. Well, yeah, we'll like I said, stay tuned for all these upcoming little tidbits of shit, and that's the technical term, I believe.
Yes.
And we will catch you on the flippity flip.
Will we?
Uh,
Hopefully.
I'm yes, hopefully that will be the case. Hopefully we will be back for more mundane, mediocre content.
Yes.
Mediocre. All right, hey everyone. So you got the intro first with me and Ted. So now I'm going to intro my first guest, which is Julian Loomis. He was on episode, I don't know, it was like a month or two ago. He was on, and he talked about fueling self-improvement through nerdiness and all kinds of cool fitness. And he is here to tell us about how he's been keeping busy amongst the craziness that is the self quarantine and social distancing. Hey Julian, how's it going?
Fantastic.
Good to hear it. You've kind of been surviving as best as possible.
I have been thriving, and I feel like I'm the only one.
Well, that's great to hear. I mean, it's nice to hear some positivity come out of all this. It seems like I'm not like saying, oh, everyone's being too negative, but it's some crazy shit that's going down, and hardly any of it is good. So it's good to hear that there's still people out there that are able to kind of take it on the chin, keep going, keep some positivity. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. I was actually talking to one of my training clients earlier today about the fact that I think I've spent so much of my life not knowing what was going to happen tomorrow or what I had to do to put hand to fist or whatever, that I guess for lack of a better term, shit hitting the fan didn't change that fact.
Sure.
So I think for a lot of people, there is a sudden thing of like, I don't know if my job is going to be there. I don't know what I'm going to do for food, or like the way I eat is completely different now. And I've either on purpose or accidentally leaned into the fear of not knowing what tomorrow brings.
Mm-hmm.
And so that doesn't change. That's just another tomorrow now.
Right.
And so for whatever reason, I think that somehow uniquely qualified me to not freak out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. It kind of it sounds like just embracing the unknown, like instead of
Yes.
like fearing the unknown, like realizing that there like literally nothing is going to change by like freaking out. Like it's only going to make it worse. So why not like
Right.
take it as positively as you possibly can, and accept that you can't change what you don't know is coming, and just change how you react to those occurrences that come down the pike, whether they be negative, positive, a little bit of both, what have you. So yeah,
Yes.
it's awesome.
I never know what's coming down the pike, and I think I've built the habit of being proactive and being able to pounce when opportunity arises. I feel like because I'm not freaking out, I see opportunity through very clear eyes, which has allowed me to remain positive and a source of calm. I've along with maintaining as much contact with our clients as possible so they don't go crazy. I've started writing more comedy and started producing my own shows because people need to laugh and have fun and not realize for at least like 5 minutes that the world sucks. And I feel like less of crawling into a hole and more like a call to purpose, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've noticed the videos that you've been throwing up on Facebook, just to kind of switch things up from your typical exercise videos and other content on your page, which is great. But it's interesting to watch your other stuff, to see what you're coming up with, and especially during this period of time, which is so weird. Something that none of us have ever really seen or witnessed or lived through before. So it's cool that you're putting yourself in that position to kind of make things better for yourself and for your intended audience and anyone else who happens to come across your content.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think my main idea was I want to be able to practice what I preach, and even though I don't actually have less time, I wanted to be an example for the fact that for a lot of us, we walk around saying that we don't have time to do the things we want to do, and now suddenly a lot of us have time. There's a surplus of time, and I think I just wanted to show people that you can do stuff with it, even if you suck, even if you're not good at it or you don't know what it's going to be. And for me, it was switching on a camera and opening up a notebook that had jokes from 7 years ago that I forgot. And just having a blast doing that. And then I got excited because I watched like the Tonight Show do a Skype interview and like Conan do stuff from his house with his wife being like, go to work. Right. And I was like, hey, we're on even playing field now. I have a shot.
Yeah.
We don't. It's not true. But that was kind of where my head went.
Hey, I mean, like Conan, he is hands down my favorite a late night show host of all time. He's one of like
100%.
he doesn't, of course specialize in stand-up comedy. He always had his monologues on his show, which were always great. He has a fantastic team of writers. But he's always been like one of my favorite comedians just across the board. He's so great, and his podcast is really funny as well.
Conan Needs a Friend is
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah, it's very good. I actually I think I've been waiting for the perfect moment to tell you this, because I thought you'd be so proud of me, but I wanted to figure out what the perfect moment would be to let you know. And I think this is it, because I have you back on the podcast, despite it being remote. You are technically in the recording, so
That's fair.
So that means that you are here in some form or fashion. But last time you were here, the first time you were on the podcast, you talked about this idea of the not necessarily the quote unquote first thing I do in the morning after I get up out of bed, but like before I go do obligations like work or what have you, do something that you enjoy doing, so that you are starting your day off on that kind of positive note with something that you really love doing. And I was like, well, this is a perfect time, because I'm fortunate enough to have a job that lets me work from home. And now I have a little bit of time in the mornings before I, have to get up and kind of get at it. I have of course a little bit more time now. So before I did anything, before I opened up my work laptop, before I made my cup of coffee, anything, I picked up my guitar off the wall and I played for like 10 minutes. And I hadn't picked up my guitar previously in, I don't know, like maybe a month or two, which is quite a long time. And I got to say, like, it definitely set the tone in a very positive manner for the rest of the day. So I want to say a quick thank you for that suggestion that you threw out there when you were on the podcast.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I would have definitely done the coffee first, but absolutely, that is amazing.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, if I have to be technical, and if I'm remembering correctly, I think I put the pot of coffee on, I made the coffee, and then I went to go play guitar while it was brewing.
There you go.
But now we're just splitting hairs.
Yes. That is actually, I guess I don't make money off it, so I didn't officially coin it, but I came up with the term coffee pot workouts years ago.
Oh, yeah.
For the idea of like you turn on your tea kettle or your coffee pot and you just like do push-ups until it's done.
Okay.
Then you've worked out. Yeah. You can go on for the rest of your day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I might have to incorporate that as well. Might as well. But yeah, like, I did that. I think the first day, I just had you ringing in my ear. It was like, David, you should pick up your guitar or a book or something and do something you enjoy before you dive into work. And I was like, all right. And like I said, it really just like set the tone. Like it made me have like that much more of a positive like outlook on my day and a positive day in general. And then I kind of followed it up the next day with like a little bit of comic book reading before I started working. So once again, like, thank you for that suggestion. You're an awesome motivator and suggestion thrower outer. I know that's the technical term that you like to reserve for yourself.
That is, yes.
Yes. It's what you have on your business card.
Well, I think my Twitter handle now says professional whirlwind of positivity, I believe is what it says.
Yeah. And that is accurate. But yeah, you've actually been doing some or offering some remote workout sessions.
Yeah,
isn't that correct?
We haven't even gotten to that part. So the reason I am not working less, even though there are less people in the gym, is because I felt a call to action, and I felt, and I was talking to another client today, because they were asking about the gym being closed. And I explained that the mayor said that all essential businesses must be closed. And I feel like my focus of building and maintaining the physical, mental, and emotional well-being of my community is paramountly essential in times of crisis. So
Sure.
I'm not going to stop doing that because it stands against everything I believe in. So we had plans over the next, I would say, realistically 6 months, maybe, to start doing some form of remote stuff, full time, not full time, but like integrated to something we offer.
Sure.
And actually, right after the tornado hit, my first thought was, we have power, but economically, this entire town is done for at least 2 years, and I don't want the boutiqueness of coming into a nerd gym to be what stops people from bettering themselves.
Right.
So instead of 6 months from now, we started building a database of options and started throwing it out for free as quickly as possible, just to basically beta test it in a time of need.
Right.
And just, yeah, it's all 100% free. We're emailing weekly workouts that you can do from home. And all this week, we are doing live follow-along workouts on Facebook Live at noon, so that people can, like, that are stuck at home can jump up in the middle of the day and move around a little bit.
Yeah, that's a great time to do that. You said noon. Is that every
noon
day?
Central Time.
Okay.
What?
Is that noon every day?
Monday through Friday. Basically, like where you would take your lunch break if you're at your office.
Right on. That's awesome. And so you kind of just came up with this idea, and you're using this time period as like your beta test to see how it'll work, going forward. Hopefully, when all this craziness and self-quarantine, social distancing dies down.
It was more of wanting to find a way to help as many people as quickly as possible.
Right.
Because we had something in the works, it basically allowed us to mess with it in real time and not be afraid to mess up. Whereas we may have done some testing behind closed doors to make sure it's all polished and pretty. We just open it up to the public right away, and it's completely raw. And every time there's been issues, but
there always is.
Yeah. Again, it was the call to do something, because right away we have I'm not going to say a small but very strong following that already, with a solid job, might not be able to physically be in our location. Sure. And we don't want that to be a reason that we can't help people out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Julian, we're kind of coming up on our dedicated time frame. So you want to drop in a few little call to actions if for anyone that wants to check out either your remote sessions or your gym just physically, or get tuned into your digital magazine.
Yeah. Monday through Friday at noon Central Time on Facebook Live, we are doing lunch crunch 30-minute workouts. Me or my wife Lydia jump around in front of the camera, and you just do likewise. Also, if you need 15 minutes to forget about the world, I have a YouTube talk show that is called Not the News, that is semi-written and 100% improvised.
Right.
That math holds up.
And so your Facebook page and your YouTube channel, are they're both under Everyday Superhero Training?
No. The Facebook the Facebook is under Everyday Superhero Training.
Okay.
The YouTube show is on Julian Loomis. It is my comedy channel that I haven't used in 10 years.
Okay.
The comedy channel is literally Julian Loomis. It's not on the gym channel because it is an example of me doing what I teach, not teaching others.
Sure. Makes sense. Okay. All right. Anything else you want to drop in there real quick? Any other?
What have you been doing?
What have I been doing?
I mean, you played your guitar, which is awesome. Is that part of your routine now that you're stuck at home?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've definitely picked up a few things that I have not done in quite a while. Like I said, I play guitar. I picked up one or two PlayStation 4 games that I haven't played in quite a while. I picked up Horizon Zero Dawn. I've been playing the Frozen Wilds DLC that was released. Well, I mean, it's been out for quite a while now, and I think I beat the game like a year or two ago, and the DLC came out like shortly after, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks after I beat it, and I was just so done with the game at that point that I didn't want to have anything to do with the DLC. So I was
I
just like, "Oh,
understand.
yeah," I was just like, I'll get to it later when I have the urge to play the game again." And like, I don't know if it's coincidence or what, but like I had the urge to boot it back up and play it, uh, right as this social distancing thing kind of kicked in, and I was like, oh man, like I really fucking miss this game. Like it's a lot of fun. So yeah, I kind of been just doing a couple things like that, I haven't really had time for. Plus, making a little bit more time for the podcast. I feel like I've kind of been slacking a little bit in terms of like social media stuff and things I should be doing anyways, like thinking of podcast topics and whatnot. But we definitely do have a pretty exciting slate of episodes coming up for April, which I'm really excited for. So yeah, definitely listeners, definitely stay tuned for that. Coming down the
Good
pike real
self-plug.
soon.
Well done. Well done.
Right. But yeah, that's kind of all that I've been doing. So yeah.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Well, Julian, thank you so much for joining us for, a quick, 10, 15 minutes of just gabbing about things you're doing to stay sane in this very, very weird time that we are witnessing.
You're welcome. I had a blast.
Awesome. Well, stay safe, and stay geeky and eat lots of cheesecake unless you're lactose intolerant.
I am not.
Or if you're trying to stay away from sweets, which I also get.
I am also not.
Good. Then I think you're living life to the fullest. At least right now.
It's a lot of fun. More people should try it.
Yep. All right, buddy. Well, thanks again for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Bye. Kirk Griffin, how are you, buddy?
Dude, I am okay, all things considered.
Yes. I think that's the best that we can all be right now, is just okay. Like, I haven't really ran into anyone that's doing great, or super fantastic. But
I mean, the floor is breathing, the ceiling haven't killed the people that you live with yet. So we're right there. We're right there at the ceiling.
Right. Yeah. Things, well, I was about to say things could only get better, but I don't know if that's necessarily true, but we're gonna
that's what we're working towards, and that seems to be the case more or less. So that's great. But if you're not paying attention and you're just kind of sitting around waiting for things to get better, it feels like forever.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna hope that things get better, because that's definitely our goal. If it's not, then you deserve a swift punch to the neck, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. But Kirk, what have you been doing to bide your time in this truly, truly weird situation, social distancing thing that we are all experiencing?
Well, Animal Crossing is the thing.
Yes, that was actually a question I had lined up for like basically everyone that volunteered to come on. That was like my first question, like, hey, are you playing Animal Crossing? Because like, I have to live vicariously through all of you. I don't have a Switch yet, so
dude, you gotta hop in on that. Like, the Switch is one of my favorite gaming systems ever.
Yeah, it's very funny that we like one of the very first 10 episodes that the podcast did was, Nintendo Switch gimmick or game changer. And it was like right when Nintendo had like their big announcement, and we were wondering if it was actually going to be a thing or if it was going to kind of be a quote unquote flop like the Wii U, but it fucking is dominating.
Oh yeah,
um
yeah. I mean, it's completely like changed my perspective on what a handheld gaming console can do, and the
right.
fact that all the games that are currently available for it, just from like third party and Nintendo's party by itself, means that
Mhm.
like I can just like the ability to just pick up and go play a game in my bedroom and then seamlessly go put it into its port in the living room and
Right.
then just have it like be on the screen without any kind of like rough transition at all. It's just
Right.
mind blowing.
Yeah, that is a common denominator that everyone has said that has a Switch that like the ability to do that is amazing, and the Nintendo Switch's capability of handling that transition, like I guess technology wise,
Yeah.
is actually pretty seamless. And it's great to hear. Like I mean, from a Nintendo fan perspective, but also like as someone who eventually, they have plans to get a Switch at some point in
Yeah.
time. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's a system that I recommend like any casual gamer get too
right.
because of its portability and because of its user friendly
Mhm.
use and just how it has a little bit of something for everybody and you don't have to worry about complicated subscriptions to be able to navigate like the Play Store and to be able to download
Right.
games and you don't need, a long-term subscription to get the most out of it. Like with
Right.
Xbox or PlayStation where you have to have a subscription that you pay by the month as opposed to by the year in order to get the full services that you want out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So, how are you liking Animal Crossing so far?
Okay, so I will fully admit that I was not original player of like of Animal Crossing for like the Nintendo DS or any of its like
Sure.
earlier iterations, just
Yeah.
because like
Wasn't it like didn't it make its debut on the GameCube? Isn't it
yeah,
Battle?
GameCube, like one of the very like earlier Nintendo systems. I
Yeah.
can't remember which one off the top of my head, but like when like if you came to me like back in the day and told me, "Hey, do you want to play a game about owning a house and being in debt and working a job to pay off said debt and interacting with your neighbors?" No. I could
No,
just
I don't
go
want to play The
outside and
Sims.
do that. But now I get it. like
Yeah.
and having like picked it up and having enough friends encourage me to give it a try and with how nice this new game looked I was like why not? I'm stuck inside all day. What else am
Right.
I going to do? And I gotta say it's pretty relaxing.
Yeah, that's what I've heard from several people, conversing over the interwebs. They all say like, I want to know how it is, and they of course there's always a few common answers like. The game just overall is kind of hard to describe. You just have to play it. But they also say that it's super relaxing. Like you
Yeah.
can like just do whatever you want. Like you can just chill.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's kind of like I can definitely see what they mean when they say you have to just play it in order to
Yeah.
fully understand what the game's about.
Yeah, like the best way that I can describe it is that it's kind of like a grinder's fest for folks that just love to pick up quests and just grind for materials and components and to craft things and to build out and to customize your character and the environment that you're around. But you're not doing it through battle and you're not doing it kind of like Minecraft style where you have to eat to survive and you have to build your own shelter and you have to go explore this map to do this and you have to worry about like creepers and things like that. Like the most
Right.
terrifying thing in the game is a tarantula. And like for all of those folks that are afraid of spiders, yeah, that's going to be like a big deal, but
Sure.
But like the fact that it syncs up in real time and it's just there for you to make your own neighborhood and go hang out with your friends while you're building furniture and planting trees and just collecting money to pay off a house mortgage. Like it sounds like, why would I want to do this? But
Right.
it's fun.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. It's fun.
Yeah, the way you describe it makes me think of that episode of The Office where like Dwight is playing Second Life and he has like a second life inside the game. And Jim's like, "Oh, he has a second life for people who want to be even farther removed from reality."
Yeah, it's definitely kind of like that.
Yeah. So is that pretty much the only thing that's been kind of keeping you busy is playing the old Vidya games? Or
yeah, I mean, I've been playing lots of Vidya games, stuff that's been kind of sitting in my queue, either unfinished or haven't started, and I've been catching up with shows. Me and my roommates were getting our roommate Jesse through watching through Yu Yu Hakusho because he completely missed out on that somehow.
Okay.
So we're correcting that.
Right.
But yeah, other than that, been playing games, been trying to catch up on backlogs of shows and movies, and just kind of keeping nose to the ground and ears up in the air as to how things are going. And
yeah.
You know, just not really much to be done when you're forced to stay indoors.
Right. Yeah. You kind of, I feel like everyone once a day, at least once a day, you poke your ears up. You search the Google machine, be like, "Oh, is shit still terrible?
Yeah.
Looks like shit's still terrible. All right, go back in my hole now."
Yeah.
So it's like a little game of Gopher.
Like, the weird side effect of all this that I've been finding is that whenever I have to go out for essentials like going to the grocery store, like if I see folks that like are in like groups of 3 or more, like I immediately just kind of judge them a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like it's weird because like you would never like think about that before, and how like it's almost like going out and going shopping. Like sure, you try to keep like a nominal distance from folks that you don't know if you're not there with them, but it's even more so now. And it's like even just going outside to get the mail and seeing people walk down the street, like you become just so much more aware of who's around you. It's weird.
Yeah, it really is weird. Like, I mean, we've been going on a lot of walks lately. Like, we'll kind of pick, for those of you listening that don't live in Nashville or the Middle Tennessee area, which I think it's very few and far between. But for you that don't live here, it's been raining pretty much nonstop since like 2 years ago.
Yes.
But like it's like Florida where it's like nonstop, but you'll get like 30 minutes of freedom where you can go outside with no like heavy jacket, like rain repellent jacket. And so we've been going outside, and like we'll still run into our neighbors who will be also playing outside, taking advantage of that, quick, hour or so of sunshine. And like, we'll still talk with our neighbors. We'll, keep a safe elbows distance. But there's only so much like isolation you can do really is, before you just, you run the risk of going all Jack Torrance on people, and you really don't need to go like, "Hey, Wendy, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in." And
right?
No one really needs that in their life.
No, like, and it's kind of like this weird look that you share between people as you're walking past, like,
right?
Like I don't know if you've experienced the look yet, but like it happened to me the other day while I was out like grabbing groceries, or at least what I was trying to be able to with how crazy things have been stocked up. But like I was like over there in the meat section, and the only meats that there available were like your flank steaks and like your roast beefs and like the really big stuff that folks don't really know how to cook. And like I'm just perusing through my options, and like there was a lady that was coming up to check the same thing as well. And, I gave her breadth and distance. And like, there was a brief moment where we shared a look with each other while we were like looking at like this, like 5-pound, like roast chuck beef, like that you put in like in a pot roast. And the best way that I could describe this look is like the knowledge of, this is fucked up. Please don't cough on me. Oh God, am I holding eye contact too long? Gotta go back to appraising the price of this. And like, it was just like it was a brief second of communication, but like it felt so awkward.
Right. Like this new level of awkward that you never really knew that you would be feeling ever at all.
Yes.
Like, and it, like, I'm assuming it wasn't like the last, like pot roast that was available. Like there was multiple. Okay. So it wasn't the awkwardness of like, you're going to dive in for the last one.
Yeah.
You're going to leave this.
Like, no,
this
like I wasn't
hanging.
trying to like size her up or anything and figure out like how many punches would it take to keep her down before I could grab that and go. Like it wasn't anything like that. That was over like in the toilet paper aisle. But
sure, yeah. You gotta be ready to drop some elbows in the toilet paper aisle.
Yeah, but yeah, it was just this weird like non-verbal communication that we sometimes have with people that I can say that you would only normally experience with someone that you're really close to, that you can have that just kind of looks and know exactly what's going on. But this just happened while I was just trying to find food to eat for the week. And I've thought to myself, this will hopefully not be the new normal, but
sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if it became the new normal. And so I'm really curious to see what's going to happen when all the quarantine goes down and we try to get back to like seeing people on a face-to-face basis.
Right.
I wonder how many social like couths are going to be broken just out of sheer like excitement for being able to actually see and touch somebody outside of the folks that you regularly room with.
Yeah, I think Nashville just might up and fucking explode with like friendliness. Like you thought that Nashville was the most friendliest city in the US beforehand. Like we are going to explode with just like joyfulness. Like it's fucking Christmas every goddamn day. Like,
yeah, and speaking of Christmas, like, guess how many like November and December babies are going to be coming?
Yeah, those have been some of my favorite like coronavirus memes. Like, I mean, granted, I'm not saying that coronavirus is something to laugh about, but the memes that are coming out of this unfortunate situation is that's the one that's definitely laughable. Is like we're all in quarantine, and what are the adults going to do?
What are we going to be doing?
A whole lot of fucking with no protection.
Dude, like it's going to be so smelly, dude. Like I could just see like the smog just being able to cut through a knife by the time that the end of April comes around. It's
gonna be weird. I think as long as this period doesn't last like too long, like if it runs until like maybe the end of April or maybe even May, like I think that'll be fine. But if it ends up being like several months, it might be a little weird when things like quote unquote go back to normal.
Yeah, like I've been trying to tell people like be hopeful for end of April. Don't be surprised if we're doing this June and well into July.
Right. Yeah. Like there's really no reason why any of us should be like making plans under the assumption that this is going to like fix itself or become better, like or just like, oh, we'll find a cure, or like they'll come up with a vaccine. Like it's not that simple. I'm not a scientist, but
I know that they're fast tracking the process as fast as possible in terms of like a vaccine's concern, and they've been trying all types of like different existing treatments to try and help out, and there's been some that have been successful in parts of like Germany and South Korea and China and places like that, where they've come up with like drug cocktails that seem to have worked in treating the symptoms at the very
Right.
least. But as far as like a proper vaccine, like
Yeah.
the fast track is like a year and a half. So
Yeah. I think our best bet is just to stick with this quarantine thing and flatten the curve, as they say.
yes.
Just kind of fucking snuff it out. Basically, is just our best bet, to not
Yeah.
even rely on the hope that we'll come up with some sort of vaccine. Like, would it be excellent and nice and convenient to have a vaccine? Absolutely. But is it going to take a lot of unified work
Yeah.
amongst our fellow Earth people? Absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but like a year, maybe a year or two from now, I'm looking forward to the inspired like media that we're going to get just from this. Like I wouldn't be surprised if we saw another spike in like zombie movies. I wouldn't be surprised if like we get like a quarantine remake out of
R-
this whole mess,
right.
and just like
Yeah.
the amount of just like creative juices being sit and stifled at home, that's people are exercising just out of boredom and out of
Sure.
necessity, is going to be very interesting
Yeah.
around this
Yeah.
time next year.
Yeah. I mean, and speaking of movies, like that's going to be really interesting. Like, there's a couple movies that were either headed to theaters or like just debuted in theaters that are already getting pushed to digital.
Yeah.
Like I think that new horror movie, Hunts or Hunted or
E-
you know what
yeah.
I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, like The Hunt, I think it's called.
Yeah, yeah. There was that, and then that's like Jane Austen, like book movie
Yeah,
remake.
Emma.
Whereas,
Yeah,
yeah, Emma, and then
Emma
there,
and Wonder Woman is probably going to get pushed to digital, and AMC has closed all their theaters for the time
yeah,
being, but they're pushing
re,
like a lot of their releases online too. Like,
sure,
yeah, we're seeing already a dynamic change in the video release market and how
hmm,
movies are released to the public, and I guarantee that's going to be stuff that's going to be carrying forward. We're still going to want to go to the movie theaters for
right,
that novelty experience,
exactly,
but
yeah.
like it's going to be a lot faster getting movies from theater into our homes onto streaming services, I think, from this.
Right. Yeah, it's I think you're right. Like things going forward after and hopefully this, craziness all dies down, it's I think we're in for a shift of some sort in the way that we get our media delivered to us, whether it's shortened movie times, like the amount of time that they spend in theaters, or maybe the rate that uh, how Netflix is doing right now, where they're basically buying movies before they can really like hit the theater circuit.
Yeah.
They do like Sundance and Con and stuff like that, and then like they'll get bought by like by Netflix or Amazon Prime, and they'll be released that way. So I'm interested to see if that, like, we see a even bigger spike of stuff like that when we learn exactly how things fare out with
Yeah, I think
watching stuff this way.
Yeah, I think the delivery platforms are going to be picking up from this very much, and I think that studios might take after the Netflix model a bit more, where they're buying out movies and producing movies to be just straight to digital release, as opposed to making around through the theaters. And I think other like platforms, not on like movies and games and things like this too, are going to be utilizing just more forward uh delivering on just direct to the internet as a
Right.
result of this. And like
Yeah.
the video conferencing market is going to be seeing a huge boom for
Oh
this,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
that'll be great because we still don't know how to make it work seamlessly.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch out there to choose from, but I think this period of time is going to be a good indicator as to which of those platforms out there work well and which definitely do not work well. I think like Microsoft is going to see a big bump, like especially with the usage of Microsoft Teams. I know, like I don't know if Skype is being phased out or if they're just going to like stop supporting it eventually and doing updates, and it'll still be a thing. But like I know that they're pushing Microsoft Teams as the quote unquote new Skype. I know stuff like that.
Microsoft Teams, I can see stuff like Zoom and Google Hangouts, and I wouldn't be surprised if Discord starts incorporating a video function pretty soon, since they already have the chat room server game marked down pretty well. Stuff like WebEx, Slack, folks like that are going to be definitely folks to watch out for in the upcoming years to see how they step up the video conferencing game and how we all connect with each other and doing like remote sessions and things like that. So it's definitely an exciting time from like the technology standpoint. And these are all just kind of good distractions to keep on your brain while you're processing everything that's going on. And it's
for sure.
It's one of the important things that I think that we have to do is just still live life the best that you can with the stuff that interests you, and definitely try to stay engaged so that way you're informed, but don't oversaturate yourself to the point of panic, because if you're panicking, then you're buying out all the toilet paper, and you don't want to be that kind of asshole.
No, you don't want to be the panic buyer that gets all the TP and everyone's left with using old dish rags
or your cats if need be.
Yeah, that's no bueno.
That is no bueno.
Yeah, but I very well said, and I think that that's actually a pretty good place to kind of put a bow on this and wrap it up. But yeah, Kirk, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to kind of remote in here and give us the skinny on what you've been up to and how you've been preventing yourself from going a little cuckoo. So,
well, it's always a pleasure chatting with you, and especially since we've got all this time in the world and nowhere else to go to do it. You kind of forced my hand there, so good job on your part, buddy. But
I know I really know how to leverage the old the social media and then peer pressure.
Yeah, you know how to wrench a guy's arm behind his back and then press him down to the floorboards and make him smell the turpentine, as it were.
Yes, if there's anything I'm known for, it's physically and mentally strong-arming people into doing things that I want.
Little do your listeners know right now that you're doing this right now. I can just feel the muscle memory of the last like arm hook that you put me in when we were last in the studio together, and the spasm.
Oh yeah, and I mean, even right now, I'm like force choking you like fucking Kylo Ren or some shit.
I know it's very difficult to say.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. All right. Well, like I said, Kirk, thank you so much for making a quick remote appearance. I appreciate it, and please do your best to stay sane, and we will definitely talk soon.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.
All right, so hey, Zaylee, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Of course, I've been doing a really shitty job so far with these little mini interviews about like introducing my guest, but I'll do a semi decent job with introducing you. Although you don't really need much of an introduction. You were on the podcast. We were actually just discussing this, trying to figure out exactly when that was. It wasn't that long ago, back in January or February, but you were on with your friends Miser and Rachel, and we talked about anime and being an independent artist and all that fun stuff. So yes, thank you for taking a few quick minutes to come back on in this remote fashion and just chat about how fucking weird things are right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So what have you been doing? Have you been playing Animal Crossing?
One of the main reasons why I haven't bought Animal Crossings yet is because I don't know what to name my town. So.
That is a very specific reason to not. I mean, I'm sure it's not a reason that is super abnormal or alien.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of people share a similar sentiment, but from an outsider looking at, like, I have to ask everyone, like, have you played Animal Crossing? Because I have to live vicariously through everyone because I don't have a Switch yet. So, like I said, I kind of have to ask everyone. So it's perfectly fine that you don't have one yet. I'm not going to fault you for it because I would hope that no one would fault me for it as well.
This is a safe zone.
Right, yeah. So if you have not been playing Animal Crossing, what have you been doing in order to not go stir crazy and get a horrible case of cabin fever?
Well, actually, I still work because I'm a delivery driver.
Okay.
So I'm still working at Panera Bread. So.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So you actually get to like get out of the house and work in like a yeah. So like your day to day, as I guess as far as work goes, hasn't really changed much.
You would think that we would be getting a lot more deliveries, but it's kind of been the opposite actually. Like, I remember I waited at work for like 2.5 hours, and like the moment a delivery popped up, like everybody in the store got so excited.
Wow, that's kind of crazy. Like you said, you think that with the because the dining option is pretty much not an option, right? It's just deliveries. Yeah. So you'd think that people would be like going crazy for the delivery, since that is, I guess, the only option. But does your store have a drive-through?
No. We right now we're just doing like delivery and to-go orders. So.
Okay, right on. That's cool. So what have you been doing in your downtime? Been playing any video games or any arts and crafts or reading?
I've been playing a lot of Mario Kart and
Yay.
Pokemon.
Cool, right on.
So
that's cool.
And then I've been like writing down some art ideas, like big art ideas, I guess, to work on in case we do get laid off. So
in case really terrible shit happens. Yeah. I hopefully it won't come to that, but yeah, I've actually been pretty fortunate where my company is, and my role in particular, was already kind of set up to where like I could work remote if I needed to. So it wasn't that big of a deal for my company and our office in Nashville to just like be like, hey, tomorrow until the unforeseen future, we're all going to be working from home and we're going to hope that this isn't really fucking terrible. And so far the overall experience has been fine. I mean, compared to what other people are going through, especially those infected, my situation 100% pales in comparison. So I feel like I'm pretty fortunate. So. So yeah, what have you been kind of? I guess you really haven't been hanging out with Rachel or Miser at all. You guys still kind of like chatting and stuff.
Oh yeah, we do like Discord group chats a lot, and then since they all have Animal Crossing, they've been like exploring each other's towns. So.
Sure, that's cool. Yeah, you mentioned that you've kind of been thinking up and brainstorming some big art ideas. Anything that you want to share, or anything that you've been working on recently?
Well, I kind of want to start getting into like making stickers. So, and I remember like a couple of years ago, I made this like giant like Nickelodeon like splatter.
Okay.
But I don't know if I can say it, but it says the word cunt on it, and I've been thinking of like shrinking that down into just a little sticker.
That's awesome. It just says cunt.
Yeah.
I like if you make those, I will 100% buy like 50 of them from you because up until this moment, that's a sticker I didn't know I needed. So I will for sure be your first customer.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I don't know if have you ever heard of the Cricut machine?
I have not.
Okay. You should if you're into or looking into making your own like crafts, especially stickers. Like this is a really good machine that's like kind of multi-purpose. Think of like a 2D printer, but has like a stylus that can like cut out things, so it can like cut out fabric patterns. It could also cut out like stickers and stuff, so it would be perfect for stuff like that. But it's a little on the pricey side. I think it's about 350. So yeah, it's definitely something that you want to get if you have like a lot of ideas or you feel like you're going to spend a lot of time with the machine. So but definitely check it out. I'll send you the link for it after we're done recording so you can kind of take a look at it, because maybe it's something that could be of use for you.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. My wife Lindsay has one, and she loves it. I showed you when you guys came over, I showed you all those like Marvel stickers that she made. Do you remember those?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, she made all those stickers with that machine. So
nice. Okay.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool, pretty multi-purpose. So so yeah, cool. Well, anything else you'd like to share?
Other than tip your delivery drivers as much as possible. Treat them well. I guess treat any working person with respect, especially at these moments. So
yeah, I've always been a huge proponent of tipping more than the suggested amount. A lot of that is because I got my foot into the job world, if that's a thing or a phrase that people use. My first jobs were in like the food and beverage industry. Like I was a server and bartender for a really long time. So I know firsthand, as well as you do, how hard and underpaid, or how hard you work and how underpaid the job tends to be. And especially right now when business is unfortunately not booming. So yes, I'll echo what you said. If you're listening and if you're ordering food to go or whatever you're doing for food that requires like delivery or drive through, and if they accept tips, like tip and tip heavy, because yeah, they need it just like everyone else does. So yeah. But yeah, Zaylee, thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your evening to kind of remote in and check in. It's been kind of fun to do these little mini recordings. It's an interesting change up from like the super long podcast that I tend to do because I'm very long winded. So but yeah, like I said, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on, and hopefully once all this blows over, we can schedule a time for you and Rachel and Meister to come back on the show in either another physical or remote capacity, and talk about anime some more, or talk about really anything else. I'm sure we can come up with something.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Like I said, and take care of yourself. Okay.
You too.
All right.